Back in the 1800s, textile workers in England felt threatened by new machinery. Would they lose their livelihood to inanimate objects? They weren't going to wait to find out. They smashed the offending technology in organized raids. This ornery group became known as Luddites. Today, if you resist technology, you might be called a Luddite. Our hosts, Colleen Burke and Melissa Burks, don't resist technology, but they may be a little slow on the uptake. Another thing they have in common? Both are north of 50 years old. This begs the question, as you age, are you destined to become a Luddite? Can you belong to AARP and have the latest PC? Let's find out. Welcome to Luddites Unite.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Luddites Unite. This is Melissa Burks with
Colleen Burke.
No relation, but similar sounding last names. This is the podcast where over 50s loathe, like, and learn about technology. And today we are delighted to welcome Anup Sathya from the University of Chicago, a PhD student who researches technology, overuse of technology. Broad area, lots of people research technology, but who researches how you measure technology from something that's independent of technology, independent measure of technology? Well, our guest here has done that, and that is why we thought he would make a fantastic guest here on Luddites Unite. Anup's invention is called attention receipts. Attention receipts. So before we let him explain it, I want you to just marinate in that word receipts. Receipts. Let that marinate. And while that's marinating, Colleen has delicious insight to get this conversation started. So, Colleen.
All right. Thanks, Melissa. So, Anup, first, thank you for joining us. I want to start by saying that every Sunday morning, I think it is, on my phone, I get this little alert that says, you used your phone for 3 hours and 16 minutes while driving or in the car. I think it says while driving, though, and part of me is defensive. I listen to podcasts. I'm not using my phone, but, part of me thinks I could be the passenger. You don't know I'm the driving and texting. And it really kind of irritates me. What do you think the intention of that particular announcement is? And are my reactions in line with what the intention is?
Yeah, 100%. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm a computer science PhD student who, all the time is going sort of hey, are we going too far? And it's good to be in a room where everyone's yeah, we're going too far.
Going too far in technology? You mean in technology?
Yeah,
you mean?
In terms of technology, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes, that's a great point. I think, essentially, there has been a little bit of a shift by Apple and Google and all the major phone companies that are trying to say, okay, we're trying to help our users use their phones a little bit better. And so you can see Android with digital well-being tools, and Apple has its own screen time thing. But at the core, there's a conflict of interest. All of these companies at one point just used to sell us phones, but now all of these companies make more money the more time we spend on our phones. So every app has microtransactions, every app has some sort of engagement metric where the more time you spend on it, the more money the platform is making. And so the more money Apple ends up making or Google ends up making. So somehow this is sort of like a greenwashing situation where they give us an app saying, okay, you've spent 3 hours, do you want to think about that? But then they actually don't want us to think about that. So they sort of give us vague metrics where we're oh, this is not really that helpful. So that we just sort of brush it away. It's just sort of a notification that is nagging us. And even when they say you can set limits around your usage, it's just an easy button that says, okay, no, I want to keep using 15 minutes, 10 minutes more. It's it's almost when you're pacifying a child and the child is no, 5 minutes more. And then so they just give you an easy option to override that.
But what if this did backfire? This functionality is telling Colleen, oh my God, she's wasting so much time listening to podcasts. What if her behavior then changed due to this information and she was all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to put down my phone.
Yeah, but
They
that's the
don't
thing.
want you to do that, right?
No, 100%. So there is a core conflict of interest there. So they want users to believe that they have your best interest at heart. So they give you the tools, but the tools are not enough. There's this like, I think pre-pandemic, there was a sort of like a big push on digital well-being. But during the pandemic, everything went out of the book. It went out of the door. You know, I mean, we just didn't have any option but to use our devices. And then I think now there is a little bit of a shift again. So hopefully we'll start seeing some better tools. But I think all of these tools will have to be independent from what Apple gives us or what Google gives us, because as soon as they're involved, there's a conflict of interest there, and it will never get resolved that way.
Well, tell us about your creation.
Yes.
And how that's meant to help us meet out and make it easier for us to understand how much time we're spending on social media or what have you.
Because you made the point, your invention is independent
Mhm.
of of an app.
Mhm.
Attention receipts.
Yeah. So there was sort of two big motivations for this. One was that we have sort of accepted this version of an economy in the world where our attention is constantly monetized. There's this great author called Shoshana Zuboff who says that like companies are harvesting humanity to sort of serve us more content, which is like deeply unsettling. But essentially, this process is hidden from us. Like all the apps that we use, Instagram, TikTok, they're all free, but they're all free because they're monetizing our attention. Like a really easy to understand, like materialistic way to sort of grasp this concept, you know, without trying to understand the economics of it. And I think receipts are the best way to do that, because there is this deep cultural memory of getting a receipt when you pay for something. And so the idea behind the whole thing was to transform this abstract attention into a physical receipt that people can look at. And at the same time, while I was thinking about that, I was, okay, what will this receipt come out of? So, because essentially, anytime you have an object in your house, it's hopefully adding to your life in some way. But this object sort of tells you that you're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? So it's a sort of conflicting relationship, because we want people to use the device, but also at the same time, the device is telling them that they're probably not doing the right thing. Yeah. So the result was this little
box.
printer. It has a little slot. I can show a little bit of behind the scenes. There's a printer on the inside with a roll of paper, and it prints out the thing. And I'm a big like mid-century modern fan, so I really wanted to like this look like a mid-century modern piece, because we want people to like display this and keep it out, and like just having the printer should be sort of a reminder of their intentions and things like that. Basically, what this does is it connects to YouTube. We picked YouTube because like it was easy to build out the pipeline for our specific study, but it can be extended to anything else, and it gives you essentially a receipt that says, okay, you watched this for this amount of time.
The actual content or the name of what you like. I listen to 80s music because music stuff. Like I watch 80s videos.
Yeah, so it gives you like the title of the video and the time that you spent watching it.
Ending up in the lasagna. Almost forgot whole sprig of fresh basil and let this guy cook over low heat until he got a mellow, sweet tomato sauce.
Space is hard, and establishing a serious human presence in the solar system will require ungodly amounts of energy.
Going back to
I want to know that.
Going back to Colleen's point about things not being categorized well enough, we actively avoided that, because essentially when you sort of categorize things into entertainment and productivity, this is sort of a normative. For me, Japanese woodworking is entertainment, but for someone who does Japanese woodworking, it's productivity. You know what I mean? So categorizing these doesn't really make sense. So we went for just the raw data, so you can process what you're looking at, and you can think about, okay, was this time well spent? Was this time not well spent? So yeah, essentially, it just prints out a receipt.
Who do you foresee as the audience for this? Is it parents who want to monitor what their kids are watching? Is it employers? Who do you see as this being marketed to?
I kind of see this as sort of a self-help tool in a way.
Okay.
If you imagine that this is, let's say that over 2 or 3 weeks, you sort of think about, oh, maybe I've been spending too much time on. Let me reflect on this a little bit more, and then you bring the printer out, and then you get receipts, and okay, I can change this, I can change that, and then it goes back. I think this is a question that I get a lot about using it as a, like monitoring your children and monitoring your own. I feel like a receipt is not necessarily the best way to do that, because you sort of need the materiality of the receipt is emotional in a way, and I think that is more beneficial for personal reflection than sort of okay, someone else is using that information. I think someone else's usage being delivered to someone is easier to do if you just have a clean platform, or some other, just a piece of paper that is printed on a printer gives the same information without having that same cost sort of metaphor.
You made the choice to make this a tangible piece of paper.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being sent to your phone or, electronically, wherever, is that right? And you did that because why?
The biggest reason is that you have to deal with it in some way. If it's a notification, you get habituated to just swiping it away. Like when your screen time app says you've spent 3 hours in the last week doing something. Over time, you just develop the habit to swipe it away.
Yep.
But if there is an actual receipt that is getting printed out and falling onto your floor, or making a mess somewhere, you have to actually deal with it at some point. You can't just ignore it. And so I think it's sort of like turning that into something physical and real attaches some meaning to it. Whereas if it's just a digital notification or an email, it's easy to get rehabituated and just swipe it away or delete it.
I think what's interesting, I know in some shops that I've been to, they ask, do you want a print receipt, an email receipt, or both, or neither? I don't want them to email it to me. Not that I keep my receipts necessarily, but it feels less invasive to have it, a physical piece of paper. That being said, I scrunch it up and throw it away shortly after I get home, usually, unless there's a possibility of a return. So having more paper around, having more receipts around, is that going to be another thing where instead of swiping right, I just, put it in the recycle
Crumble
bin?
It up and put it
Right.
Put it away.
How do you see that working?
Yeah. So there's actually, the printing of the receipt has 2 side benefits. So one is just having the printer in your home is sort of like a physical reminder of your intentions. This is something that we saw in our study as well. When people put it up in their living room, just having the printer there was a reminder for them that, okay, I need to sort of change my habits a little bit. And the second part is the printer printing something out. Some people didn't actually look at their receipt, but then at the end of the day, when the printer was printing a receipt out and it was just going and going, they were like, oh my God, I've watched so much, you know what I mean? And on top of that, it's the physical receipt. So it's sort of works on multiple layers, but again, there is no silver bullet, right? There are no silver bullets, especially when it comes to digital well-being, because there are thousands of smart people and supercomputers trying to figure out how to keep us addicted on these things. And obviously, my printer is no match, you know what I mean? So I think the sort of difference with this versus a blocking or a notification is that when you're doing it on the phone itself is the source of stimulation. And so you're expecting stimulation when you pick up your phone. Your brain is sort of primed to say, okay, I'm frequently stimulated by this. And so when you pick up your phone, your brain goes, okay, where's my stimulation? Whereas a separate object that is sort of its whole purpose is to, help you reflect on your thing. There is no stimulation there. You know what I mean? That's the whole purpose of it. So I think that like in our study, at least that part of it was helpful for a bunch of people. And also to the point that you said about you might just get used to the receipt. So what we did in our study was we had 2 conditions. In one condition, the group of people got the receipt automatically. So at the end of every day, they would just get a receipt without them asking for it.
Yep.
And another group of people got the receipt when they pressed a button. So there is this, I want a receipt right now. And the interesting thing was that people who got a receipt automatically tended to reflect on their usage more, whereas people who pressed the button liked the printer more.
The one group, you're getting this whether you like it or not, essentially,
Mhm.
right? You're getting this receipt.
Yeah.
But they appreciated it more.
But they didn't like the printer as much, but they tended to reflect on their habits more. Whereas people
Wow.
who press a button and get a receipt
Yeah.
enjoyed pressing a button and getting a receipt, but they didn't change their habits as much.
Got it.
Which is this like weird dichotomy, because like people who are actively engaging with the printer sort of see it as like this like fun tool where they get a receipt,
But they're
and
not going to watch any less 80s music videos.
Exactly. Yes.
I guess that is a segue to my point of behavior. What is this doing as far as changing behavior?
We don't know yet. So the study that we ran was quite exploratory. We did it only for 3 weeks. There are a lot of challenges with deploying hardware in people's homes. It gets really expensive. It's hard to maintain.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, like, we're a little bit limited by what academic research funding allows us to do. But we don't know what the long-term effects of it are, and we hope to find out later if we can try and get some more funding for this. But yeah.
Well, I find it fascinating that trying to attack and do without using the actual thing that's making you use it is just a whole different way of looking at things. It's almost like rewinding, right?
Yeah.
I think it's great as long as they're not like CVS receipts that are 18 inches long. Well, then you probably
that's right. I mean,
depending on how many videos you listen to, right?
Yeah.
I think I want to make sure I understood this, but you chose to do YouTube just because you needed to pick a forum, but you could attach this to, I don't know, Facebook, Twitter, games.
So we picked YouTube because there's a lot of evidence to suggest that people want to change their quality and quantity, either reduce or adjust the quality of it. And so YouTube is sort of essentially, when we're converting attention into a receipt, we have to go through this encoding process of what are people looking at and what does that look like on a receipt. On YouTube, this is pretty straightforward because there's a title of a video and then there's the time. Whereas when you're on TikTok or when you're on Facebook, you're just scrolling, and so the quality of the content that you're consuming is harder to encode into this thing. So that pipeline needs work, but the principle remains the same for any other platform.
So what's next for attention receipts?
So right now we're working on a new media art installation where this is sort of like a long-term object that you keep in the home. We're building like a slightly like shorter interaction version of this where it sits in a museum and like people walk up to it and there's like a tiny phone screen and they interact with like a news app. And when they interact with it, there's this process called real-time bidding. This happens on everyone's phones. So whenever you're on a social media platform, while you're scrolling, the platform has some sense of what you're most likely to buy. So the platform is priming you to buy something. And then once they think you're primed, they put out real-time bids for the ad space. So essentially, there are companies in the background bidding for your time. And they sort of, the highest bidder gets your attention.
Yeah.
So we're trying to like condense this into one interactive piece where people walk up to this installation, scroll through a news app, and they get a receipt that says, okay, like this was the value of your attention. This was the ad price. And
wow.
So
that sounds awesome. I would love sitting in a museum and just doing that all day.
Yeah, but what about getting this in my home and everyone's home? Do you see that happening?
Hardware startups fail more often than they succeed. Essentially, like producing this at scale is a little bit of a challenge. Also, there are a lot of like hurdles to data privacy and things like that because basically when we're running a study, we can get consent from users and say, okay, this is the data that we're collecting about you. Like we didn't collect like a lot of egregious data. It was just the YouTube title and the time. But when you go towards a centralized service, like how does this data get stored? Like it's a full-time job with a team of people to figure this out, and I'm not ready yet. Is the short answer. Yeah.
If you ever need the demographic that Melissa and I represent to test anything,
yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Well, we're at about we're gonna wrap it up with a little quick round robin Q&A. I'm gonna shoot a couple things at you and see
Mhm.
what you think. The first one is, how much time do you spend on your most used platform?
Ooh,
Well,
my bane is Reddit. I got on Reddit like when I was
oh,
really young because it was so like it was very different from Facebook and all of these other social media platforms. So I use Reddit a lot. I have used it quite a bit, but I would say I spend about like 45 minutes a day on Reddit, and it's not great. And I'm trying to change it.
my next one do you ever try to limit that time, and are you successful?
So before I was trying to get rid of it, and I realized that trying to get rid of it means that I just replace it with something else. So now I have blocked hours. So 7 to 11 in the morning is my deep work time where I'm like writing and like working on my research and things like that. So 7 to 11 I can't use Reddit or YouTube, and then after 11 things are a little bit things are a little bit
All
woozy. But
bets are off, and you're
yeah, all bets are off. Yeah, but
interesting.
protecting my time in that period has been helping quite a lot actually.
All right, and the last question, crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
50 years from now, what is the main technology that engulfs humans, and how much time does one person spend on it?
Ooh. Uh, I have a utopian answer and a dystopian answer. A utopian answer is I think maker tools are getting really interesting, like 3D printers, all of these like things to make things, customize things are getting really interesting. So if things go really well, like it should hopefully become really easy to make things a lot. And so making things is really interesting because like you create something new that you imagine. So hopefully that's what people spend a lot of time on. The dystopian answer is I think the personal assistant robots are going to be quite a big thing because unfortunately social media is increasing loneliness everywhere. People need company, people need support, and I think there will be a capitalist answer to that says, okay, let's put a robot in everyone's home that sort of does things for everyone. um I don't know, but I don't know if both can coexist. But yeah.
All right.
Well, Colleen, do you have any last words as we wrap up? This has been amazing.
It has been very educational. I think the next time I get that little alert on Sunday mornings, I'll pause a little bit before I swipe it. But it just makes me think very differently, especially about how. And I think this was quoted in one article that you were involved with is if something is free to you, you're the
Yeah.
product. Thank you. Yes, I had heard that before, but this really amplified that saying and makes me think a little differently about what I'm doing online. So
Glad.
thank you.
I'm glad. Thanks for having me. It was like a great conversation.
Oh
much
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was very much fun. It's like I said, I think it'll make a lot of people. It might not change habits, but if they stop and think for a
Mhm.
minute, that's good too.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
Burke and
Thank you.
Burks, back at you with our guest Anup, and we will see you next time on Luddites Unite.
That's today's episode. Thanks for joining the conversation, and we welcome your feedback. If you're a loyal Luddite, feel free to send thoughts via carrier pigeon or smoke signal. If you've gone to the other side, email Melissa Burks at melissaannburks@yahoo.com. That's MELISSAANNBIRKS @yahoo.com. See you soon.